I'm John Beaudin. It's our entire interview with Felix Cavaliere, the guy from the Rascals and the Young Rascals. You remember the hits? Good Lovin', Groovin', How Can I Be Sure, A Beautiful Morning, People Gotta Be Free. And the book is called Felix Cavaliere, Memoir of a Rascal. There'll be links in the description where you can pick it up. Hey, I just heard from another interview you did from the cruise that you've got an album called Then and Now coming up.
Yeah, it's not going to be out for a while because we're doing this book. The book is the priority right now. But yeah, during the pandemic, I said, what am I going to do, man? I might as well do something. So I had started an album, and I was able to finish it. Thanks to computers. The concept is pretty interesting. It's five songs that influenced me, which we re-recorded, and then five new songs that kind of show the influence. I mean, just basically fun, fun, fun.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the book in a second, but you got Spanish Harlem, Higher, Higher, Slip Away, Searching for My Baby, and Marianne. Is there a reason, before we move on, is there a reason why are these songs stop you in your track songs? Why'd you pick those?
Oh man, when you try to find five songs or songs that influence you, especially in my case, because I was able to hear the beginning of rock and roll, in New York City. It's really hard, but yeah, they all had something to do with me. I mean, they influenced me tremendously. But I mean, there's so many. I mean, that's the thing. We start back from the beginning, with Jerry Lee Lewis and Little Richard, and it's just so many. But if this does anything at all, I'm going to do it again because we really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. The band loved it. I loved it. It was fun.
Well, when you started, what was the impetus for you? And man, fans are really happy you did for you, because sometimes I'll ask an artist, "Hey, man, I think there's a book in you," and they'll look at me and they'll go, "That's too much of an arduous task for me to look back at." Wouldn't it be cathartic? But how was it for you, the whole process?
Well, it's all of the above, man. I mean, I think the reason that I did it, basically, we did a tour, we did a Broadway show. We meaning the original guys, 2013, 2012, and I don't know if you've heard this, but we did a press conference, and press conferences where they asked the four of us questions. Everybody had a different answer for the same question. So, so I said, wait a second. I come to realize that the last man standing tells the story. You know, so I said, well, I should write down at least my thoughts because it kind of threw me. I mean, simple questions: how'd the group start? How'd you get your name? Blah blah blah. Anyway, then I realized, wait a second. I've been here for quite a few decades. 5 to 6 years was Rascals. What about the rest of my life? And that's how it started.
There's I was talking to Kathy from the Go-Go's, and I told her something. She said, "No one's ever said that to me, but I know she's heard it since." Her life leading up to joining the Go-Go's. I told her, I said, "You know what? I'm so glad I read it because that was just as interesting. Like there's more to everyone's life, if put down on paper in an interesting way, is always of interest to everyone. People want to know the other stuff."
I agree with that, and I do a lot of. I used to do a lot more before pandemic of music school kind of speeches and lectures, and let the young people know what they're in store for with this crazy business. And I realized that a lot of the stories that are attached to me could pertain to some of the young people, and like for example, how many times have you heard? Well, I'm in college. I just started, but I really don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what major to select and stuff like that. Well, in my case, I was a pre med major. So from pre med to music, how'd you do it? Well, that's what it's about.
The I like the part about Jimi Hendrix. The fact that people forget sometimes because you'll get the generic questions and you've got them. Did you know any famous people? Well, I was one of them. But the Jimi Hendrix thing, where I find it interesting, they wanted, like, you saw the decline. You saw this kid, first of all, that was shy. Then you saw the change in him. What was your reaction to that?
Well, the first part, which I was really happy for him, because Jimmy was a really nice guy. You know, I mean, he was really absolutely too nice. He was so giving that he got himself in trouble because yes, 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 yes. You can't say yes to everybody. Some people have ulterior motives, but he was just a sweet guy. I mean, like I say, you see this image, but that wasn't him. He was not afraid to show you his licks because a lot of guitar players don't want you to see how they. But of course, you could show you all you want, you still couldn't do it, you know. But my reaction to the so-called decline is the same as anybody else. I mean, seriously, you know, like unfortunately during the the years of our lives, we've seen a lot of sad stories. You know, I lost a dear friend who I grew up with uh, because of I guess drugs and the fact that it influenced his mind to a point of where he didn't even know he was sick. So when you see somebody like that, you try to reach out, and try to help, and I did my best.
Well, I was talking to Richie Furay a few days ago, and I said, he laughed. I said, Richie, why are you still alive? And by the way, speaking of Richie, when I asked Randy Meisner, Jim Messina, Richie Furay, all three of them separately, why Randy left. And to quote you, all three answers were different. I put them side by side.
Exactly. Exactly. That's so funny, you know. Yeah, and you'll have to ask him why he left because he's the
Yeah.
only one that knows.
Yeah. Well, I did. The For you, why? Well, like I asked Richie, I said, Richie, he didn't get involved in all that stuff or got himself out with the bad stuff in rock and roll, the when in Rome stuff that all rockers do. Why do you think you're one of the guys that's still standing? And I know Autobiography of a Yogi is going to come up because you and I both love that. But why do you think you're still here and healthy?
You got it, man. During that period of time, there was a movement, which actually, was kind of created by Maharishi and the Beatles to join into a spiritual pursuit. In this case, yoga. Very simple. What you learn, mental, physical, spiritual health. So if you got those three things under control, or as much under control as we can, you'll never get your mind under control unless you're a yogi for real, real, real. But bottom line is you're okay. You know, uh, if you don't do those things and you're exposed to life, especially life in the rock and roll world, you have problems. And like unfortunately, my past group, is living proof of that. I mean, their health is not that great. And so, I really attested to a good upbringing because family has a lot to do with it. If your family teaches you right, you got a good chance. You know what I'm saying? And then also, if you're fortunate enough to join something like a yoga a group, etc., you'll be all right.
If you would have become a doctor, I think you would have been a singing doctor in the OR. I
A
get a
singing
feeling.
doctor, yeah.
I mean, I look at I see so many videos of you, and unfortunately, I've never seen you live. But I watch you, and I kept going, because I remember we talked about that the first time we talked, and I'm going, that guy is just meant to sing. But if he was a doctor, he'd be singing in the OR.
Singing duck. There's nothing wrong with that. Yes, I ran into somebody who actually does that. He's an MD, surgeon, and he sings quietly or he has earphones and listens to great stuff. Yeah, it's a healing art. I really believe that music is a healing art as well.
Did Linda take the picture from the cover of the book?
Yes.
That's amazing. I've never seen that picture before, ever.
Have you seen her work?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
She has these coffee table books that are magnificent, and she has every one of her pictures is as good as that. She was a wonderful lady, and this is prior to her meeting Paul, of course. But she used to come around and take everybody's picture and put them into these photography groups. She was really good. So I was really, really happy that they allowed me to use that, Paul and as the estate. That was really sweet of them.
Yeah, and the thing about that picture I find interesting is, and she had that capability. That picture is striking. That picture, that's a moment in time. And I know all pictures are. I'm overstating the obvious, but there's something about that picture, man.
I agree. That's why I asked her if I could. I asked her the state if I could use it. Because you get billions of pictures taken, but some of them just stand out. And that certainly did.
Jimi Hendrix gave you a watch.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, like I say, like he just was that kind of a man, like in other words, you just showed me that. I said, boy, that's nice. Well, if you say that's nice to him, you're going to walk off with it because he's not going to let you go without it. See, people don't understand that. I mean, like he was such a giving guy, you know, that, I don't think people really know that. They have this image, of this wild man. He wasn't a wild man at all. He was a really nice man.
What was the last time you saw him?
Madison Square Garden, 1968, approximately 19, so right after the Martin Luther King assassination. Atlantic put on this humongous, wonderful show at the old Madison Square Garden, which had, oh man, it's had Sonny and Cher, Sam and Dave. It was all the Atlantic artists, and he was there. It was not in such great shape, but I, escorted him to the dressing room to sit down for a minute.
Yeah. The a few of the fans wrote a few questions for you, and I
Oh,
found it
good.
interesting. There's like I'd never heard of the Harmonica Rascals, by the way, before I started looking up the name of the Young Rascals. But Sherry Thomas said, "Did you get the band name?" I know the answer to this, but I'll let you answer. From the Little Rascals.
No, no, we got the band name, and that's one of the questions that came up. So, you know, nice stories are nice stories, and this is the way I remember it. There was a gentleman by the name of Soupy Sales. Do you know who Soupy
Yeah, the
Sales was?
comedian. Yeah,
Soupy Sales was, like a figure in a lot of us crazy youths kind of lives. And what we did, and this is in the book, I mean, this is there. Basically, we're trying to get discovered, we're trying to get found, and he had a big hit record out. It's called The Mouse. And so we decided, wow, why don't we go see Soupy and ask him if he needs a backup band? So we went to WNEW TV, and from the first meeting, we just clicked, because immediately he said, "Okay, everybody, grab your wallets," So we knew, okay. We started laughing, and then we started talking, and we said, "Soup, like you got a big hit out there. Maybe you want to, maybe you need a band." He says, "All these years, I didn't realize I needed a band." I said, "You need a band. You're going on the road, right?" So he said, finally, he said, "You guys laugh at everything I say. This could work out." He goes, "Sometimes I say things in front of audiences, they just don't get it." Sure, because, we were insane, you know. But anyway, that's how it happened. So he asked us our name, and we were trying to find a name. So his answer was this: "You know what I'd like to call you? You couldn't put on a marquee." He said, but anyway, I believe he gave us the name. Now that was the Rascals. It wasn't the Young Rascals. The Young Rascals came as a result of what you just mentioned. Our manager, rest his soul, Sid Bernstein, in his astute wisdom, while we were on the road promoting Good Lovin', said, "Lads, I had to change the name." Why? Well, there's this group that's claiming rights to the name, which was before your time. The Harmonica Rascals were on Milton Berle many, many times. So, without asking us, without confiding in us, without consulting us, he calls us the Young Rascals. Well, man, with all due respect, yeah, we were young, but I didn't like it. We didn't like it. So, when we became hit record makers, we changed it.
yeah. Like Glenn Shorrock of the Little River Band, when I interviewed him,
Yes.
I said, I've been saying your name wrong for years. He said, "Oh, everyone, I've gotten all this." And Randy Bachman, it's not Bachman. He doesn't correct people because he thinks
Ah,
Bachman sounds good. But I remember someone coming up to me and saying, I was saying Cavaliere. He said, "No, it's Cavaliere." I said, "I don't think so." How many times have people screwed up your name?
phew, wow. See, down south here, they stop at Cav. They say, "Cav." It's not that hard. Well, you see, it's interesting because John Sebastian, who speaks fluent Italian,
And you guys are close, right?
well, I love the guy. He's another gem. He pronounces it correctly in Italian, which is the way you said it, Cavaliere. You pronounce all the vowel. However, in English, which has evolved over the ages of, like, I can't say that word, Cavaliere is the correct way. See, but you know, the really correct way is the pronunciation that's vernacular in the Italian. But please don't do that. It confuses everybody.
You know, the guy who told me was Italian. The guy who told me to say Cavaliere, he
Because
was Italian.
he knows what he's talking about. He knows how to speak the language.
Song Facts said that you had said, and I think I'd heard this before, that Good Lovin'. So why weren't you happy with the like number one in 60s? You when it went down, you there was something about it you weren't happy. What was it?
No. It's a typical artist kind of thing. You always think you could do it better. In other words, like particularly that song, because we had that song in our repertoire. That's how Atlantic heard it. They heard it live, and you know when you do something, you say, well, I could do that better, man. I could do that better. I could do that better. Well, maybe I could, maybe I couldn't. But you know what? It worked. No, that's just youth exuberance and kind of like, you know, naivete and kind of like, you know, confidence. And, you know, the one artist that I've seen that, you know, because I used to go to Aretha Franklin sessions in Atlantic because, I mean, I adored her and her work. And she always said, I can do it better. And you know what? She could. Every time she went back, it was like, oh my God, she did it better, you know?
Is that one of the reasons I know Benny King did it and many people did it, but Aretha also did Spanish Harlem, of course. Is that one of the reasons that's on there?
No, I just have tremendous respect for Benny King. First of all, again, I keep repeating myself, but what a wonderful guy he was, man. And I learned so much from him as a boy, as a youth coming up, listening to his records, the Drifters, and of course his solo work. Tremendous respect. My only regret is that we always wanted to do something together, and unfortunately, I didn't move quick enough.
The 1, 2, 3, was that your idea in the beginning of that song?
I don't know how the heck that happened. You know, I mean, I really don't know. It was just a good idea. You know, 1, 2, 3. You know, and it was so funny because, you know, during this period of time, stereo was evolving from mono. So now when you're doing a mix, you know, like you're doing the 1, 2, 3. Well, a lot of times the two and the maybe some of the three would get lost, and you'd hear one, good love, you know, because it was all experimental in those days. But I don't really know how that started. I just know that it worked.
If that happened, though, that still would make someone stare at the speaker. It wouldn't be bad necessarily, right?
No. I mean, it's not bad. It's just that, you know, as I say, there was a transition period of time when we were going from mono to stereo. Now, most of the radio stations that were AM at that time, they didn't have stereo. Yeah. So we had to mix twice, mono and stereo, which was cumbersome to say the least.
You and Eddie on like grooving. You know, to me, that song is going to be played if we're still around in 10,000 years. I mean, all your songs are like that. And but that song, did you know? Did you know you had something?
Well, you know, basically, the way you know anything is by people's reaction. You know, I mean, like in the old days, you know, the record company Atlantic was pretty small, so that the staff was right next door to the recording studio. So the secretaries would actually hear the playback, and if you got a kind of a yes from them, good. And then we could always tell when our manager came in the room and started dancing. You know, we said, well, this could be good. This could be good. Of course, not that he could dance, but he felt it. The only way you know, seriously, is by audience participation reaction. You know, in record companies, they used to do tests, you know, for that with audiences to see, you know, what records were hits and that. You know, there's a difference between a spontaneous hit, you know, and a bought hit, a purchased hit. And, you know, for anybody, you know, that doesn't know that, it's called advertising. If I spend money on your radio station, I can play what I want. Mm-hmm. Now, basically, Good Lovin' was a spontaneous hit from the first time we played it in front of human beings. They jumped up and danced. That's the kind of, I mean, I have so many stories I could tell you, but the bottom line is that's what we all dream about, spontaneous hits.
Yeah. Was it really based on working out girlfriend schedules for, or is that, that's grooving. Yeah, that's right. I got my songs mixed up, but was that really based on the fact that you could only see your girlfriends on Sunday?
Well, basically, yeah, because like you're working Friday and Saturday almost every week, and most human beings, normal human beings, that's when they go out with their loved ones. So what do you have? You have Sunday afternoon, you grab it. And I don't mean that literally, but you just enjoy it.
Did you guys play down? I mean, I remember Bobby Rydell, God bless his soul. Bobby and I
Yeah, man.
talked, had a good conversation. He said,
Sure.
I read his book and I contacted him right away. I had to get the interview, and he was really nice. But anyway, he said he played down girlfriends back then. I mean, he was a teen idol by himself but was that ever a thing for you guys, playing down that you had girlfriends?
Playing down in what way?
The fact that
Publicly?
you had girlfriends because, the girls in the audience would.
Oh yeah, sure. All that nonsense. Sure, yeah. Geez, of course that's what they did. Like I say, the matinee idol stuff. I never had that problem. Dino and Eddie were the matinee idols in our band. You know, you. I'll take care of the music. You take care of all that stuff. Okay. As soon as I grew a beard, man, everything changed. Everything changed. They said like, "Oh, what happened to him? What is this?" No, I mean seriously, that whole stuff. You know, the initial attitude of rock and roll was obviously to attract the opposite sex or any sex. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what sold. Product and fandom, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I could tell you so many stories, man. Oh my goodness, the best one is, oh God. 100,000 people, huh? Dino, he says, man, I get in trouble for this. But he said, we got to get more press. We got to get more press. So what he did is he went out. Now, there's a famous magazine, I will not mention the name, but what's the proper word? Seduced may not be the right word. He involved himself with the editor. He was on the cover every week. Okay? So, whatever it takes, man.
100,000 people too.
100,000 people, hopefully there's no lawsuit in there because, oh my God. But anyway, it's a true story. He just, he wanted to get publicity. Well, what is, Henry, as a matter of fact, wrote this great song. I don't know if you ever heard it called Sleeping My Way to the Top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's Gene, by the way? How is he doing?
Well, health. He's another Canadian. My friend there from Ottawa. Ottawa, is that the correct pronunciation?
Yep.
Ottawa. He's had a tough time. He's okay, but he's not okay. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he had a heart attack, as you know, on the road,
Yeah.
on stage, and the good thing is that he's a perennial Yankee fan, and the Yankees happen to be doing well this year, so he's really happy.
So the chance of the four guys getting together on stage, that's probably not going to happen, is it?
Health wise, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Yeah, we passed the point of that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah, we passed that. I tried to do it in 2019. That's when he fell on the stage. I tried to do it because I had just done a tour of Hawaii. As a matter of fact, I just came back now, and they begged us. They begged me, "Can you come one more time? One more time?" And I really, really felt, why not, man? I mean, my God, first of all, it's Hawaii. Second of all, they adored us there. Well, I tried. I couldn't put it together. The only one that I could put it together with was Gene, unfortunately, who went down on that tour before we even got there. So it was kind of scary.
Ray Ellis asks, and Ray played with Ray Sawyer and a whole bunch of Canadian country bands. But Ray asks, people got to be free. That message, well, he's telling, it's a statement more in the question, is more important now than ever. And you must get that a lot.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, isn't it? Really,
Yeah.
it's more important now than ever. But there was a recent. I came across this lady who came from. I think she was from Mississippi, and she said, "No one's free until everybody's free."
I
And
heard you say that on the cruise. My God.
yeah. Well, what are we going to do, man? I mean, like I say, I mean, what we have going on in our world today, and especially in America, which is supposed to be the home of the free and the land of the brave and the land and all that stuff. Come on, man, what's going on here? Seriously,
Yeah.
are we kidding? You know, I mean, I mean, this is 2022. We're still in the dark ages.
1968. I mean, in April, it's Martin Luther King. In June, it's Robert F. Kennedy. As a guy living in from America, what were? I mean, I know people got to be free came was and its sequel hit, of course, for RFK. But um, what was it like for you going through that?
Well, I mean, that's one of the good things about being up there in Canada is that, you don't go through a lot of the junk that we go through down here, thank God. But it was turmoil, turmoil, emotional turmoil, especially, if you're working for somebody's campaign, because there's a fervor that goes with that, like when it gets taken from you, like it got taken from us with RFK, we'll never know what he would have done, for the world. Uh, but it was a difficult time, and then we also had the draft, which was a situation where you did not know whether you were going to be fighting or not. You didn't have a choice in the matter, you know. So it was a very tenuous time for all of us, tumultuous time, and look what we have going now. The problem, well, we were kind of separated then. You know what I mean? There definitely was set, between them and us, et cetera, et cetera. But now, it doesn't even make sense how we're separated.
Yeah. How can I be sure? Is that about the a doubt in love, specifically a first
Exactly.
love?
Yeah, basically, it's exactly that. Yeah. You know, uh, I say, I mentioned in the book about this young lady that I was engaged to, I was involved with. We call them Muse, M-U-S-E. Basically, you're just so inspired by something. In this case, was love. That you just gaga. You're just out. You're gone, man. And then all of a sudden, one day you realize, wait a second. Not that it was anything wrong with this. It was just I was way too young, and it was not the correct thing to do. And I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. Well, fortunately, we turned the song into a little bit more of like a universal. How can I be sure than a personal? How can I be sure?
So you wrote A Beautiful Morning in Hawaii.
Yeah. Well, of course. Yeah.
I
Sure.
mean, how perfect is that?
It's perfect, and the interesting thing is that every time the band went to Hawaii, we would plan it so that we would have our vacation right after the concerts. So if you wanted to stay in paradise, you were there already, And we always had the excuse, well, we're going to write. Well, it's very hard to write in Hawaii because you don't feel like you just don't you don't feel like doing anything, just enjoying, because it's so beautiful. And now, of course, a lot of people know about that. Then it was not as popular. It's still pretty far. It's a good ride. But anyway, yes, that beautiful morning was conceived and written out on Oahu.
It's interesting that you're from far away from there, and all of a sudden, a person goes to a place. You never know the trajectory of your life. You go to this place, and obviously, Hawaii has spoken to you so incredibly strongly, right?
And vice versa. See, the story of the Rascals in Hawaii is a wonderful one. It really is because they took to us uh, primarily because of our R&B leanings, and second of all because of their positive messages. So we were like Beatles in Hawaii, and
Yeah.
that was fine. I mean, it was so there was something there that they call ohana, which is the family that embraced us, and vice versa. Some of us, many of our crew, they stayed there. As a matter of fact, they're still there. They, what do you call it? They checked out of reality. They just decided to live there, and that was a long time ago, my friend.
Yeah, yeah. What's the nicest thing? And God, I can imagine the comments that you get from people. And I always say you got to do the work to get into the room, but to stay in the room this long, to that
Yeah,
special room, what's some
yeah.
of the things that people have told you through the years that maybe really, really touched you?
Well, a lot of times there's like, uh, well, I mean, again, this is all in the book, but I mean, there's like really interesting stories about like you saved my life. Hey, man, are you kidding? No, I had this gentleman one time give me his dog tags. And I said, what's that all about? He said, well, you saved my life. I said, what you talking about? He said, man, yeah, I was in Vietnam. I was part of the PT boats that go up and pick up the wounded, on the Mekong. And I heard that you guys were going to be on TV on Hullabaloo. I asked if I could go on the next boat. That boat was destroyed. Now, when you hear stories like that, you say, like, okay, so we have a purpose here. It's not just to make money and, have big swimming pools, et cetera, et cetera. We are definitely influencing other human beings. And I took that pretty serious, and I still do.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that.
That's real, man. That's real. And, that's exactly what I did. I just said, whoa.
I mean, how do you keep it? And I know it doesn't last forever. It certainly didn't with the Beatles or anybody else, but like with Gene, Eddie, and Dino, how do you keep the machine going with their, no matter how you split it, they're all different personalities. Everyone's from a different planet kind of thing. And how did you manage from yourself personally? How did you manage that?
Well, unfortunately, I don't think I managed it very well because we couldn't keep it together. That's the tragedy. When I put the group together, basically, my premise was to get four individuals who were really powerful. And in our case, at least three of us were leaders of our own bands prior to joining the Rascals. So we had, basically four frontmen as far as I was concerned. When you saw the Rascals, you saw four really talented people that, together made a unique sound. However, it's like having four alpha males in your kennel. Now someone has to control them. It can't really be done from within the group. It has to be done by your management. Your management theoretically is older than you, theoretically is more experienced than you. You got to control the troops. You got to control the boys and the girls, and mostly the girls. But anyway, we didn't have that.
Yeah. Who was the most challenging for you in the group as far as different planets as far as personality wise?
Well, Eddie probably was the most challenging because he left. He quit. More than once. And quitting is not just a physical thing; it's a mental thing as well. When you quit and you leave, you know, uh, I've said it many times. You have four wheels on a car. If one decides not to go, oh boy, you got a problem, my man. Yeah, it was tough. Everybody had their quirks. Obviously, we're human beings, and we have faults, but there's a ethic, a work ethic, and there's also like a group ethic, and that's what really was violated. And I say that with all due respect. All for one, one for all. There's no I in group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, with you and Eddie, though, even let's just say, even with Groovin', that even if that would have been the only song you guys wrote together, you'd still be on those rock and roll cruises because people would love that song so much.
Yeah.
I mean, you're the furthest thing away from a one hit wonder, you guys. But I'm just going. People always give them hell. I'm going, what are you crazy? You know how many musicians don't even get to record a song, let alone be on the radio or have a number one hit.
Oh, yeah.
But your process with Eddie was as far as writing was that challenging? Was it as challenging as it was rewarding? Did you guys get into when you wrote together? Were you in sync? How did that work?
Well, we really didn't write together. You know what I mean? It was a long story, but basically, uh, it's hard to explain somebody that likes to work and somebody that doesn't like to work.
Hmm.
Because first of all, I don't call that work. It's a joyful experience to sit down and write a song. It's fun. That's why I moved to Nashville, Tennessee. Because I want to continue writing songs, and I don't ever want to stop. But if you look at that as a challenge, if you look at that as work, if you look at that as something that's not quite as easy flowing as, then it's a challenge. So the simplest answer I can say is that it was a challenge.
That's a really interesting way of putting it, because it's interesting if you give a person the opportunity for a paradigm shift. And sometimes it could be the hardest thing in the world of what you just said it. I mean, what did you not get into music because you were doing it for nothing at one point, right?
You do it nothing for many points.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Well, I mean, look at the difference between then and now. Again, the same title, then and now. Joe DiMaggio, if he made $100,000 a year, these guys make $100,000 a game. You know what I'm saying? It's a different planet. No, it wasn't for money. I mean, seriously, you say, how many people would like to do what I did or what we did? Are you kidding me? You got to count your blessings, man. You got to count your blessings and say, this is a joy from the first day. You write a song and somebody likes it and it's number one. Whoa, wait a second, stop.
It fills their cup. What the?
Oh, let's complain about that. I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Why? What's to complain about? No, I loved every moment of it. And, there's good moments and bad moments. But again, you come to the controlling human beings factor. We can't control human beings. You have your quirks. And there's a lot of reasons for this, man. Like you can really get into interesting stories about families. Families wives, girlfriends. I mean, look at Beatles. Look at Beatles.
Perfect example.
Perfect example. Look at Get Back and see who was doing what in the Beatles. That's all you got to do. It's very simple. It's very simple. I mean, okay, we don't want to talk about it. No, let's talk about it.
Okay, I've got 10 quick questions for you. They're very quick, and then we're done.
Spot answers, right? Fast answers.
Fast answers. If you want to pass, you can.
It's like
but if you
fast chess.
If you want to go a little longer, that's okay. Okay, these are in high school, and I get a feeling I know because you were right across from my high school in your basement when they were practicing with the basement windows open. Were you known though in high school as that music guy?
Yes.
Beatles or the Stones?
Beatles.
Paul, John, George, or Ringo?
Paul.
Yeah, me too. Outside of music, what are you best at? Being a wise dude. There you go.
I think being a father. Since it's Father's Day yesterday or the day before.
Happy Father's Day.
Thank you.
3 songs you wish you would have written.
Oh boy.
Any of those on the album? Any of those on
well, I mean, 3 songs I wish I read. How about Stardust? How about Yesterday? Come on. I mean, like this. How about White Christmas? I'll tell you a quick story.
Yeah.
Okay. Used to be with ASCAP. When I was in New York, I used to be part of the board. I used to see this guy every time I went to a meeting. He was always smiling, always laughing. I said, man, what is with this guy? This guy, he wrote Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Oh, I see. That's why he's smiling every day. Got it?
Yeah, I hear when you say White Christmas, the biggest song of all time. Okay, what makes you cry?
Oh, just sadness with like this Ukraine situation and the way people treat people. I mean, this is absurd. This is really sad.
Yeah, the fact that people aren't completely shocked all over the world, like shocked, I don't get. I talked to a musician from Kyiv, and he's doing a thing every day. And there, it's not so bad, as you know, but they're going to move in. It's sad.
Well, I mean, that'll make you cry. I mean, some of the stories you see how people treat other people it's just sad, man. I mean, and especially look, you all in Canada don't have this gun problem.
No, we don't.
What the hell? We kill kids in a friggin' school? Wait, what did you say?
Yeah. That part of it is shocking to us. I understand because I'm so immersed in the American psyche because I need to be for my work. But it's still. Have you ever seen something you can't explain, like a ghost or? And spiritually, have you ever had something unexplained? Because I know once you had said it's not about magic. You said that on the cruise. It's not about that.
Well, my wife's from Arizona, and the UFOs are all over Arizona. So basically, I hear stories all the time. Oh, wow, da. And right now, the government is really exploring the
They
fact
are.
that, yeah, well, it's about time. Very interesting planet we live on, isn't it?
Yeah. What's been the high point of your career?
Well, like as far as from a business point of view, well,
Up to you.
one of them certainly was the Songwriters Hall of Fame. That meant a real lot to me because, in fact, it's not publicized. There's no museum. It's not televised. So the people who are in there,
Best of the best.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
That was pretty
Um,
high.
worst show ever.
I get in trouble for that.
You
There's
don't. You can pass if you want.
there's certain venues that I won't mention the name of, but they're in Florida. Okay, that were prior to putting music in there, they had animals. And we're working in a place where animals and seals and porpoises, that's one of the worst I've ever been. Yes,
Uh,
animals.
top three keyboards.
For me,
Yeah.
oh, B3, certainly like, Bosendorfers, and I kind of like Korgs.
Okay. At 16, your parents would have killed you. Killed you if you did what?
What I did. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think at 16, if I had jumped off the ship and became a musician, it would have gone over too well. I had to wait a few more years for that.
Top three albums.
Well, it's got to be Ray Charles, one of them for sure, and we have to say Sergeant Pepper is certainly one, and then there's oh, I don't know, I have to really think about top three. That's in my collection. I gotta say that the Weather Report.
Oh, Weather Report. Yeah. 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 They
That was a
were.
long time ago, but man, with an album, yeah.
Yeah. When that was done, I remember going, what? That's it? They're done? Like, that's it? Like one of the greatest jazz bands? What?
Well,
Uh,
Chester Thompson, the drummer, lives here in Nashville also, and I got to know Joe Zawinul because he was part of the Atlantic family for a while there. Things like that. They make an impression on you as another one is like the Steely Dan. The Steely Dan things really opened up a whole new vista for all of us. I said like, oh man, I better go and check on my jazz chops. Great stuff. Just interesting things. Of course, the Sergeant Pepper, because of the fact that it was a composite, it was a story. I really thought that the rock opera was going to take hold because of that and Tommy. You
yeah.
know, but unfortunately, the record companies did not want that genre to. We lost something in American in world music because of that.
Did you?
They wanted singles. They wanted hit singles.
Well, the year before, and you were head first in '66. Were you into Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys?
Yes, oh yes, but I was more of an R&B guy. I mean, I love their harmonies and things like that. But I got to feel the groove a little more.
Is there somebody out there you'd still like to work with that you haven't? You got your
Well,
eye on?
Bruno Mars.
I heard you like Bruno Mars. Yeah.
Well, he kind of goes backwards, and brings it forwards.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about him because, there's a respect for the past in his music that I can hear.
Locked Out of Heaven was when I heard that song. I remember stopping in my tracks. I'm going, who? And then I found out about him doing the Michael Jackson stuff, and doing it really well.
And doing it really well. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, like I say, there's a respect there for the past that appeals to me because I am the past. What do you got to tell you? Here we are, the past.
Okay. Ian, that's the last one here. Ian Anderson told me, I asked him, what's the craziest thing a fan ever did? And Ian Anderson of Jethro Tull said, I thought someone shot me. I looked down, there was blood on my chest. Someone
Ooh.
threw a used tampon at me, but he thought he had been shot. What's the craziest thing a fan ever did to you?
Well, the craziest thing is a fan came to my father's house from California who had no money. And how she got there, I'll never know. And she opened the front door. I mean, my father opened the front door and he went, we called her the bird lady. She was just out there, my man, and followed us to Pelham, New York. My poor dad open the door because we had the same name, you know.
Yeah.
Knock on the door. Haba, haba, haba.
Remember, the new book from Felix Cavaliere is Memoir of a Rascal, available now. There'll be links in the description where you can pick it up. Make sure you comment on our videos, subscribe to our channel, and share our videos. We'd appreciate that. Like them as well. We also like that. And share them in the appropriate groups on Facebook or Twitter or wherever you like. This is John Beaudin. This is Rock History Book.